100 years ago, in 1925, 7 years before the more famous Kinder Trespass, there was another less well-known mass trespass that came to be known as the Battle of Benfield. The contested footpath was on Werneth Low, the hill to the northeast of Stockport. In 1924, the right-of-way was regularly obstructed by barbed wire and branches. So the Peak District and Northern Counties Footpath Preservation Society, the name was shortened to PNFS in the 1960s, was called in to tackle the problem. So the society decided to organise some mass walks to highlight the situation. The first one took place in June 1925 with 200 or more people. The obstructions quickly reappeared. So in 1926, more mass walks were organised. These pictures, taken from the PNFS archive, taken by photographer Thomas Berwick, show the hikers gathering and being confronted by a smartly dressed gentleman with a wing collar and a bowler hat, and to the right is a stylish lady. These may be the landowners, but we don't know. In the background you can see the summer houses which are still there on the south-facing slopes of Werneth Low. On the other side of the fence, on the left, you've got a man wearing an armband who we may guess is a steward or an officer of the society. Then there are some young chaps here that have come along to support the protest. Some have knapsacks and are bareheaded, enthusiasts of the hiking craze so popular in the 1920s. But others are more smartly dressed, wearing hats, including a bowler. Here we see the mass walk descending towards the Benfield path, with more than 500 people present. There are some lady hikers as well as gentlemen in quite formal coats, trilbies and bowler hats. A man in the foreground in his +4s is wearing the typical kit for hiking. One man is taking his young daughter on the demo. The protesting hikers make their way down into the valley of the Gig Brook. We don't have a record of whether there were speeches, as there were at the Kinder event, but this photo shows the numbers attending the Benfield protests were at least as big as the more famous 1932 Kinder Trespass. Here we see walkers trying to break through the barriers of brambles and thorns on the obstructed path. And here the newspaper caption reads, "Hikers endeavouring to get past a barbed wire fence erected by the owners of the land." And in this picture, protesters are actually crossing the Gig Brook, and you can see how muddy it is. And men, women and boys are teeming down here and needing a bit of a helping hand to get across. And finally, in this very clear picture, we see smartly dressed walkers breaking through the barrier, trudging through the mud to assert their right to use the path. And these pictures bear witness to the hundreds of walkers, supporters of the Footpath Society, who were willing to come out on mass walks to protest over a humble footpath being obstructed. Then, as now, having legally valid evidence was essential. So the Society in 1927 and 28 collected the evidence of the legal existence of the right-of-way, and the additional evidence was presented to legal counsel in 1929. He recommended that the landowner should be issued with a summons for obstructing the path, and this was done. The case reached Stockport Borough Police Court in December 1929. The annual report for that year records that on the 5th of December, the magistrate decided the path was public, and the defendant was fined for having erected the obstructions. The report comments that it's a very significant fact that although the society has been in existence for upwards of 25 years, this is the first action to be necessary to fight in the courts, surely a tribute to its powers of negotiation. This remains the philosophy of PNFS: negotiate wherever possible, but take action if negotiations fail. John Bennett was found guilty of wilfully obstructing the footway, and he was fined 40 shillings. But in the annual report of 1930, it is noted that although Mr. Bennett had been found guilty of obstructing the path, he had still failed to come to an agreement on the line of the path, and therefore no footbridge had been built. We must jump forward to 1994 to find the newspaper headline, "Rebels Triumph After 64 Years." The press report says that the disputed path, which made national news 64 years ago when rebel ramblers staged the mass march, is finally to be recognised as a right-of-way. In 2001, meetings were still being called by Stockport Council in an attempt to get agreement with the society about a finally agreed route. And as late as 2012, there were still reports of the path being obstructed. But the society did finally put in a footbridge in 2014. And in 2015, the Littleton family gathered to dedicate the bridge to Adrian Littleton, who had served the society for many years. Let's have a look at the current footpath database, which records that in winter months the path is extremely muddy and slippery on the steep descent on the east side of the Gig Brook, and in summer months it is hidden from view by the Himalayan balsam. 100 years on from the protest of 1925, the story is not yet complete. The council's rights-of-way officer consulted the society earlier this year on a new definitive line, which would match the current line of the path on the ground. We have followed the extraordinary efforts the society has made to have this right-of-way legally recognised and accurately mapped. PNFS continues to fight for walkers' rights today, just as it did 100 years ago, by going to court, if we need to do that, to protect a right-of-way. You can also report faults on rights-of-way to us by downloading the free Path Checkers app and sending us a report in a few clicks on your phone. You can also support our efforts by becoming a member and also by volunteering with us. Just go to our website for more information.